Arthur, what has over 200,000 eyeballs and only 17 teeth? That would be Alabama's Bryant-Denny Stadium on a fall Saturday. Welcome. I'm Ruddy Rutledge, and he's Arthur. It's LSU Bama week, but this one is a little bit different than in years past, just a tad. Before we get into our preview for Saturday night's football game, yes, we still have those, I want to address a few things. A little bit, just a little, has happened since our last show, which was a preview of the LSU A&M game. That abomination of a game turned into a wild and wacky bye week. Get it? Bye week. Bye, Brian Kelly. Bye, Joe Sloan. Bye, Scott Woodward. But what started off as a bye week turned into a national spectacle. I would describe it as the most Louisiana thing ever. To summarize, the Aggies kicked off this extravaganza by smacking the dog snot out of the Bayou Bengals, and that lazy mooch Brian Kelly was then promptly launched out into the parking lot in front of Tiger Stadium, as he should have been. Hey, at that point, I was impressed. But the show was just getting started, because then Louisiana's governor, the man who dragged Omar the Tiger into Death Valley last year, kicking and screaming, the governor, not the Tiger, he decided to jump right on in, or take over, possibly, allegedly, depending on who you ask. He actually gave us a spot-on impersonation of John McClane from Die Hard, telling LSU Athletic Director Scott Woodward, "Yippee-ki-yay, melon farmer," just before lighting the fuse and blowing this thing sky high with a series of unexpected media appearances. But the show didn't stop there. Oh no, in recent days, we've seen LSU welcome aboard a new president, Dr. Wade Roos, who immediately, removed the interim tag from LSU Athletic Director Verge Osbury's title. Now, after several contradictory statements that were made, any confusion about Osbury's official role, interim athletic director, acting AD, permanent AD, that confusion was finally put to bed Thursday evening, not only by Roos, but by Verge himself, who put out his own statement. I guess to self-confirm his very own permanent appointment. I've seen some Tiger fans refer to these events as a three-ring circus, but a three-ring circus is kind of dull and bland compared to what we've been treated to. More organized anyway. I think this has been more of a carnival sideshow. Can't you just hear the carnival barkers? Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, step right up. You want to see the bearded elephant lady? We got it. You want to see Siamese twins swallowing swords and twerking it on the PMAC? We got that too. But if you were hoping to see the world-famous JoJo the Dog-Faced Boy, we'll do you one better. We got the LSU Football show, starring Omar, the broke-down, three-legged bitch runt of a gas station tiger. Thankfully, it now appears as though the dust is finally settling. Now, if they would all just stop getting in front of microphones and talking and tweeting, and get to work hiring the best possible coach for LSU, please. Moving on. Believe it or not, they still play football at LSU. And on Saturday night, the LSU Tigers, led by interim coach Frank Wilson, will knock heads with the mighty Crimson Tide in Tuscaloosa, Alabama, where the hometown fans put the kin in kinky. Going from where these Tigers left off against A&M to now, I expect a completely different energy from this LSU team Saturday night in Bryant-Denny Stadium. I've seen too many midseason coaching changes to not expect big changes and new energy out on that field, at least at first. We saw it at LSU in 2016 when Les Miles was fired and Coach O was promoted to the interim, and he then promoted Slinger Ensminger to OC, and the offense looked completely different. On defense, the Tigers started off hot this season, and now they are not. After the latest failed attempt at slowing down a mobile quarterback, the shine has just about come off defensive coordinator Blake Baker. But in his defense, it's not exactly easy to stop a quarterback who can not only run, but can also pass with accuracy. Bama quarterback Ty Simpson can move. He's not a statue back there. But Diego Pavia, he ain't. Trinidad Chambliss, he ain't. Or Marcel Reed. He's only got 79 rushing yards on the season. And defending quarterbacks like Simpson, that falls more into Blake Baker's wheelhouse, it seems like, if he only had a healthy Whit Weeks. But it's Simpson's arm that has him on most Heisman contender lists, and he's thrown for over 2,100 yards with 20 touchdowns and one interception. And he's got a lot of weapons. Good thing the Tigers have the nation's best cover corner in Mansour Delane, because Bama wide receiver Ryan Williams is a freakish athlete, but the more physical Jeremy Bernard is the Tide's leading receiver. And he can also hurt you on the ground. He has 15 carries on the season. Now, this may sound wild, but running the football is something this Bama team has struggled with. They're 14th in the SEC in rushing, just a notch above the Tigers, who, as we've seen all season, cannot run the ball at all when they need to. But despite their low rushing numbers, Bama's offense holds on to the ball, and they usually finish games with a big advantage in time of possession. So Garrett Nussmeier and the Tiger offense have a specific job to do. Move the sticks and stay on the field. Frank Wilson has committed to running the ball in this game. He said the Tigers would be practicing a more physical style this week, giving both sides of the ball a good look at inside runs, power runs, in order to simulate game action. Well, wow, what a concept. I mean, I hear that, and I'm thinking, what in the hell have they been doing? Just playing two-hand touch? Patty cake? Patty cake, patty cake. Blake Baker's man. Bake me a pancake block fast as you can. Did Brian Kelly run every practice? Like a Friday afternoon walkthrough? Maybe things will be a little different now under Wilson, but physicality, that's not something you can just flip on like a switch. Not in 2 days of practice anyway. But maybe Frank will do more than flip a switch. Maybe he'll strike a few nerves, challenge a few offensive linemen and a certain linebacker to pick up the intensity. I understand the Tigers want to feel like they have a fresh start now with Coach Wilson in there and Kelly out. And the Tiger rushing attack may very well look better in this game, better than it has so far this season, for whatever that's worth. But then again, given the bad technique that offensive line coach Brad Davis, still employed offensive line coach Brad Davis, has apparently been teaching these LSU linemen, I don't see how you fix that in a week. Or 2 weeks, for that matter. The Tigers will face a Bama defense that is a far cry from the old Nick Saban defenses. First time I've mentioned that name today. But the Tide still rank 5th in the SEC in total D. And they are more vulnerable to the run than they are to the pass, so there's that. Maybe LSU can get Harlem Berry going for a full game this time instead of just a half. If the LSU O-line could just not get destroyed at the point of attack. Seems like a lot of ifs and maybes, huh? And then there's Garrett Nussmeier starting again at quarterback. Doesn't give me much confidence. And for the sake of change, I wouldn't be surprised at all if Wilson yanked Nuss early on in this one if he continues to play and act like Brucey from the longest yard. Prediction time. LSU's got to pull out all the stops in this one. Go for broke. Balls to the wall. That's a given. Joe Sloan has been shown the door. And new play caller Alex Atkins is likely going to pull some new stuff out of the bag. Stuff we haven't seen and Bama hasn't either. But don't get too complicated, Alex. Use your strengths. And Tradez Green is a strength. Bama has a strong pass defense, but they don't have anybody who can match up with 14 if he posts up in the end zone. Or posts up anywhere. And that's not a knock on them by any means. NFLers, all in that secondary. But Tradez is singular. Bama linebacker Justin Jefferson, not that one, will rack up tackles. You'll hear his name a lot. But if LSU can keep that defense on its heels with looks Bama has not seen on tape, they can make the fourth quarter interesting. But first and foremost, they have to match Bama's physicality up front, which is going to be a real challenge for the Tiger O-line. I believe the Tigers will come out hair on fire, blitzes from all directions. Nothing to lose means no holes barred. Think back to when LSU nearly beat Bama back in 2021 after Coach O had already been canned but was allowed to keep coaching. And the Tigers just let it all hang out in that game. Blitzed almost every play, and they nearly pulled it off. But just like in 2021, it ain't going to be enough. This Bama team, if nothing else, knows how to win games in the fourth quarter. See their win at South Carolina, last game out. They're also coming off a bye, just like LSU. And this LSU offensive line, I'm afraid, is just too big of an Achilles heel. That group must play with far more toughness and physicality than they have all season. And I need to see it actually happen on the field before I believe it. The Tigers fight, but at home, the Tide still comes in. Bama 31, LSU 24. Things haven't gone the way LSU fans hoped this season. That's an understatement. But hey, we've still got the good old days. We got the memories, right? I know Bama leads the all-time series 57-27, and a lot of those Tide wins have come recently in big games against some very good LSU teams. But LSU has won some big ones too. I assume most Tiger fans are familiar with the epic 2022 victory in Tiger Stadium, the high point of Brian Kelly's tenure in Baton Rouge. If you don't count his vacations and his golfing and his paychecks. You also have the 2019 win led by Joe Burrow, the number 1 versus number 2 game of the century in 2011, with LSU winning the Field Goal Fest. I should also mention the 2005 overtime win led by Jamarcus Russell and the day the pigs flew in 1993, the day pigs flew. Those are probably the most memorable and most legendary wins for LSU over Bama. Debatable, of course. But what about the big LSU wins that rank just a notch under that top tier. The ones that tend to get overshadowed in the series history. The borderline legendary wins, if you will. I got a few of them queued up right here. We'll call them top low-key legendary LSU wins over Bama. First one took place in 1982, and it could easily slide into that top tier, but I just wanted to talk about it. Bear Bryant's last season for any of you youngsters watching. Utes. That's a Alabama term, right? What is a Ute? Before Nick Saban came to Tuscaloosa in 2007, there was a running joke, well known around the SEC, and that joke was, what do Bama fans and maggots have in common? They've both been living off the same dead bear for a quarter century. And that quarter century began just after that 82 season when the Tigers beat Bama 20-10 in Birmingham in a game that was not as close as the score sounded. After the game, the legendary Bear, so the story goes, staggered into the LSU locker room, congratulated the Bayou Bengals, took another pull from his flask, and declared, "You Bayou balls just made my old drunk ass quit." Or something like that. I may have that quote a little wrong, slightly wrong. These other LSU wins today all involved Nick Saban, interestingly enough. He ain't coming. Saban took the reins in 2000, and at that time LSU had not beaten Bama in Tiger Stadium since 1969. 69. And it took all of one season on the job for the Nick-tator to snap that streak. There was a tie in 1986, but the Tigers won this one 30-28 in a classic. A year later, in 2001, one of the better offenses in LSU history invaded Tuscaloosa, where Rohan Davey and Josh Reed lit that place up like a Philadelphia, Mississippi slot machine. And finally, 9 years later in 2010, Saban stood on the opposing sideline, the visitor sideline in Tiger Stadium, and watched his defending national champion Tide lose to a guy who was eating grass and picking boogers and flicking them and watching them stick. Of course, if you listen to the Paul Feinbaum show the Monday after, you soon learned that LSU did not, in fact, beat Alabama. This is the Paul Feinbaum show back on Birmingham radio before the SEC network. And if you listen to that show, you learned that LSU didn't beat Bama in that game, or in any of these games I've mentioned, for that matter, because the same thing happened in that game that's happened every other time the Crimson Tide have come up on the short end of the scoreboard. LSU didn't beat us, Paul. We beat ourselves. Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe. I'm Ruddy Rutledge, and this is some Bayou Football.